And as I said, like every month you go in there and it's like, oh, there's this new one by Grandmaster Flash, White Lines. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing, you know. And then like, yeah, said the message, and then, you know, Adventures on the Wheels of Steel. I mean, when I heard that, it was like, oh, this is just mind blowing. It literally was like, I just played it over and over and over and over again. It was 82 or something. I'd never heard it before. It's like, wow, this is incredible. This is like, you know, I suddenly realized all my life I've been waiting to hear Go Go, because it was just something about those drum rolls. It was just like, wow, it's just like, but the fact that Philip was kind of in tune with what was going on in the fashion world. And so it was just that mixture of like really fashionable people who are really into music, and the gay scene, and, you know, the budgeting, you know, the start of the B-boy scene. By pure luck, I think Mark and I were a couple of the first DJs in London to Playhouse, because Philip had gone to the New Music Seminar in '85, and he met the guys from Trax and DJ International, and they gave him a whole box full of records. And they used to have a football pitch, maybe 2 or 3 football pitches size, of nothing but vinyl.
Wow.
And it was just, there was so much stuff. And I just wish I'd had unlimited funds, and I wish I'd had a transport plane to fly them all back to London. But to DJ to that many people, and just the vibe was so great. And then I think I played Revolution, Dennis Brown. And just when everyone started cheering that, it's just like, I almost had tears in my eyes. Like, what that many people cheering, you know, on a song. It's like, oh, wow.
Lights, camera, action. On this week's show, we have someone who's highly rated as a music enthusiast, who's lived and breathed the 80s London club scene, who was the resident DJ in some of the best underground clubs in London, like the legendary Wag Club, the Mud Club, and many more, and would drop musical bombs on the crowd and stir them up into like a frenzy on the dance floor, who's also done music reviews for the legendary Face magazine, ID, NME, Record Mirror, and Soul Underground, and also had his own clothes shop, and has also written books. So you could say a real kind of, you know, jack of all trades. So I'm really excited. We have from London all the way over to LA, the one and the only Jay Strongman in the place. Woo!
Wow, that's quite a lot of praise for Sunday morning, man. Thank you. I'm blushing.
Oh, Jay, it's an honor. It's an honor, man. You know,
it's great to be on the show, man. It's really great to be on the show. So,
yeah.
We should have done years ago, but I basically flaked out when I was in London the last time. But I'm glad we're making up for it now.
100%. And you listen, anybody watching these, please hit the subscribe button down there somewhere and share this interview around the socials, because, you know, the kind of history you're going to be listening to now, you know, Jay's history runs deep. I mean, we're going back, way back to the old school, isn't it, Jay?
Yeah, back to hand cranked record players.
Brilliant. But now, listen, man, I can't wait to chat to you. So basically, like the first 2 questions I always, you know, start off with is, you know, whereabouts you from, and what was it like growing up, you know, as a wee nipper?
Yeah, I was born in Guildford in Surrey. Lived in a village called Ash Green, which is like 15 houses or something at the bottom of the Hog's Back in Surrey. When I was 11 or 12, my dad got a new job. We moved to a place called Crowthorne, which is near Wokingham, near Reading. So it was kind of in between Guildford and Reading, kind of in between those 2 places. And it was pretty suburban, I guess. You know, it was like we had, you know, it was a housing estate that had been built in the 60s. And it was just like nice gardens, you know, everyone knew everyone else. And yeah, it was kind of, I think that was why I rebelled against it a little bit, because it was so safe. And as soon as I got to 16, I moved up to London, and, you know, then my life really started, you know. But
that's when the magic happened. But I mean,
yeah,
when did you, Jay, when did you grow up? I mean, I know you're a little bit older than me. I mean, I think you're around sort of, have you hit your kind of late 50s?
Yeah, I won't see 60 again. So unfortunately, but no, it's I guess when I was about the first thing I remember as a teenager, first record I bought was Hey Girl Don't Bother Me, which I thought was a brand new record, and I didn't realize it had come out in '64, but I think it hit the charts in England like 71, 72. And so I was kind of at school, you were one of 2 things. You were either into Led Zepp, Grateful Dead, and you wore those big greatcoats and had long hair. And I always preferred a more stylish thing with this sort of like the suede head, look, and so I preferred Motown and reggae. So like Dave and Ansel Collins, Double Barrel's the first LP I bought, you know, that kind of stuff. So it was always this thing that, to me, music and fashion kind of went together. And I realized that when I was about 13 or 14, that I didn't want to look this way. And therefore the music I liked was going to be this, because I like that suede head look better than the hairy look, if you know what I mean. But very shallow, but when you're a kid, you're kind of shallow like that, you know. It's just like,
I mean, the thing is, Jay, you're totally right. You know, music and fashion were all interlinked. I mean, if you go back to the Teddy Boy era, they was all got their sort of the Bowie font style hair with the long 3/4 length overcoats. You had the mod scene where they was like, you know, really dressed up with the three pin suit, winkle picker shoes, and the you know, the wicked hairstyles and all that. So the fashion and music has always gone hand in hand. Always.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the British are the best at it, because we're kind of like cuckoos. We take from other cultures in a good way, and then we create our own scenes. Like, you know, the Teddy Boys took the rock and roll from America, but they had their own look. You know, the Mods took the soul from America, but they had their own look. Same with punk, same with the whole underground scene in the West End, you know.
Yeah, same with the hip hop, same with acid house, same with house. Yeah, all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Britain's like an amplifier. We take things from the States and we amplify it, and then it goes out to the rest of the world, you know. So, yeah, so I was lucky to be born in England at the time, you know. So it was just a lot of things were going on. It was just this thing of like early 70s, you know, there was funk, there was soul, there was reggae, you know, there was so much going on. And yeah, it was a great time to be around. I was in a band for a few years, and I just realized that playing music was my forte. So I love playing music. And again, being born when I was and going through the 70s, I mean, I went from being a skinhead to a smoothie to a Bowie fan, you know, and sort of really got into Bowie for a few years, then got into punk, then got back into funk and soul, you know, around sort of 78, but then started going to the Blitz. And so dabbled in Neuromantic for a few months, and then got into the rockabilly. And but at the same time as in the rockabilly, I was still buying my funk LPs and still buying, you know, early rap stuff. So that's what I liked about England, that you could be all these different things at the same time, you know.
There was some incredible music. I mean, my mum and dad were like mods of the 60s. So I was growing up on groups like the Small Faces, Booker T and the MGs. You know, I see the Who at Charlton Football Club. I think it was like in 1974, 76, down at Charlton Football Club, looking at the heights. So did you, was there any kind of, you know, 70s concerts you went to which kind of blew you away? Because there were so many great bands.
Yeah, there was, I mean, I loved all. I mean, the first band I think I saw was Bowie, 1972, the Ziggy Stardust thing, and then that was just pure luck because a friend had a ticket and he didn't know what to do with it. And the tickets were £1 in those days. Give me a £1 to see Bowie. So I went up to Earl's Court, and while I was standing outside, because my mate couldn't make it, that was it. He couldn't make it, and he didn't turn up. So I'm just standing there like, you know, all these older Bowie fans looking amazing. I'm kind of there wearing a Bowie t-shirt thinking, oh God, I look so naff compared to all these older people. And this guy comes up to me, goes, have you got a ticket? And I said, yeah, why? He goes, well, if you haven't got a ticket, we need security for the night. And I said, well, I'm not big enough. He goes, no, you just need to basically stand on the door inside and tell people where this is the exit, this is the exit. I said, sure, okay, how much did it pay? I was like £2. So once I got in there, this is Earl's Court Stadium, the guy then signs me up for all the other gigs coming up. So I see Pink Floyd, Slade, all these gigs, and like I didn't pay to get in. I was paid to just wear this armband saying Steward and saw all these bands. So, but yeah, Bowie was the first, because it was the first gig. It was the most mind blowing, and you know, it was just like, wow, I can't believe that the excitement in this audience. You know, like 10,000 people going crazy. And then Slade was really amazing. I mean, Slade was just like, I thought the whole place was going to collapse. So everyone was stomping, and all the glass exit signs started shattering, and all the light bulbs were blowing up, and it was like, wow. Yeah, this is okay. So this is rock and roll. But then about 74, 75, I went to see Fatback Band in, I think, Farnborough. I can't remember. I think it was a Civic Hall or somewhere in Farnborough. And I thought that was amazing. Just that funk groove. It's like, oh wow, this is amazing. But yeah, I mean, the 70s was great. And then the Pistols and the Clash, and you know, and then a bunch of reggae bands. And yeah, I mean, it seemed like every month there was something I really wanted to see. You know.
That's something I was going to say to you. You know, I mean, the punk era was a very kind of, you could say it was quite sort of, it could have been quite sort of political. They was very outspoken. And in terms of the Clash, I mean, the Clash were like probably my, you know, my favorite kind of punk band. I mean, If you think about it, they done that track, the Magnificent Seven, and for me, the Magnificent Seven is probably the first ever UK serious rap tune, which I think come out, I think it was 80 or 81. And the Clash was so important that basically when the Clash were playing, they were playing out in New York, I think around 1980, 81. They come back to the UK and they brought over a graffiti artist called Futura 2000.
Yeah.
And Futura 2000 in 1981 done the first kind of, like, this is before it was called hip hop, but he done the first kind of like wicked piece under the Westway saying Futura. It was absolutely incredible. So the Clash, you know,
they were really on it.
They was really kind of on this rap thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that Magnificent Seven, that was a tune that I played. I mean, most DJs played from like 82, probably about 86, and you still get a reaction. It was such a great tune. And then Radio Clash was great. I mean, and just the way they mixed funk and punk and just got that vibe going, you know, that make dance tracks. It was great. As you say, the first band to do a rap song, first British band to do a rap tune. To do a serious rap tune. I mean, rather than a jokey wham kind of thing. Yeah, but yeah,
it was. I mean, it was. They were so ahead of the game, and you know, and basically, you could say as well, like with the help of Malcolm Mclaren as well through Buffalo Girls.
Yeah.
Things were being pushed. I mean, when Buffalo Girls come out, that was the first time on video we was kind of seeing like breaking, MCing, DJing, someone cutting up on the wheels of steel. So basically, like the elements of hip hop were kind of formed in one place. Yeah, exactly. It was that period from 78 to 82. I think was really, really important for everything else that came afterwards, because there was so many things cross fusion and you know, it's like. You had the whole, I mean, the funk scene never went away. There was things like, instant funk, got your mind made up. You know, so got my mind made up. Yeah, so there was amazing stuff coming out in the 78, 79, 80. And then so I'm buying rockabilly stuff, and I'm still going to Daddy Cool buying reggae stuff like Wadu Dem, Ika Mouse and that. And then there's all this great funk stuff. And then suddenly someone plays me this song, Rapper's Delight. And it's like, what the hell is this? And it's playing for 15 minutes, and you're sitting there and you think, this was like the first time I heard Anarchy in the UK by the Pistols. It's like, wow, this just blows me away. It was just like, what is this thing? I didn't know what it was. It just came out of nowhere. And then you get on a bus and all the kids are doing all the lyrics on the bus. And then you start seeing people wearing like, you know, the T-shirts and, you know, and that was just amazing. It was like, wow, this is like punk again. It was just like, I felt really privileged to going through the funk scene in the 70s and then going through punk, which was like a real rebellion against what was going on. And then hip hop or rap was a real rebellion against everything that was going on. And it was like, wow, to be around all that. And yeah, you're right. I mean, at 81, 82, every time I went into a record shop, it's like, oh my God, this tune is just like so amazing. You know, like Freak Man by Empire and stuff like that. And it was just, yeah, it's just that whole thing, and electro was starting to creep in a little bit, you know, and like Aleem, Get Loose, and all that stuff. Oh yeah, Aleem, and obviously Planet Rock and Perfect. Another one. When I heard that, it was like, oh my God. I mean, I did know Kraftwerk, and I thought, wow, this is great. But I thought this is even better than Kraftwerk. You know, it was just like. And Jay, another one. I don't know. I'm sure you would have loved it as well. Was Scorpio by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Scorpio. Yeah. I mean, what a tune, and the message. You know, the message. Yeah. Super Rapid Number 2 and all that. Yeah, all that stuff was great. It was just, it was, I mean, my first DJ gig was the Dirt Box in 82. What was that, over in Earls Court? Yeah, it was above, it was a drinking club above a chemist in Earls Court. And maybe held 300 people, but they used to cram 500 people in the place. But the funny thing, the first night I went there, I can't remember what happened exactly. I wasn't prepared to DJ, but either the other DJ that was going to work with Rob Milton, who was the main DJ and the guy who ran the place, didn't turn up, or he got drunk or something. And Rob said, have you got any music? And I said, well, I just live around the corner. So I got a taxi back to South Kent to my bedsit, grabbed my record collection, a few hip hop things, you know, a few reggae things, almost 70s funk and rockabilly, came back and DJ'd, and I got a tenner. And they said, well, come back next week and do it. And then it just got busier and busier and busier. And was you, and Jay, was you, I mean, back in the day, back in them 70s days, you know, people used to get up on the mic, big shout out to what's his name and all that. I mean, was you doing any of that, or was you literally straight mixing?
straight mixing, although, I mean, mixing is too strong a word for it, probably. We had these Hawaiian Citronic, I think it was Citronic Hawaiian decks that you couldn't, you know, you just started them and that was it, and they started playing. And we had no microphone. And I think we decided that we didn't really want to do that, the Soul Mafia thing of like, oh, this is going out to the ladies and all that stuff. We thought, okay, let's keep it underground, because it felt like a real underground vibe. And so, yeah, it was either that and the lack of the mic, but I just decided to keep silent because I hate my own voice as well. That was part of it, you know. And so, yeah, I just never really spoke. And that lasted throughout the whole of my DJ career. And of course, things caught up with me because by 85, very few people were talking. And once house kitting, everyone was just mixing all night, you know, so.
And was you really kind of mixing it up? I mean, you brought all these styles of music with you. Was you kind of really doing like a mix mash of all these different styles of music?
Yeah, I was really lucky because the crowd was really mixed. And, you know, a lot of the crowd come from the beat route. And that was a mixture of kind of, started off new romantic kids with a lot of old soul kids. And then there was that whole zoot suit look, you know, I guess you'd call it a trendy look. And then there was, of course, people from the skinhead scene, because, you know, the specials were around that time. So it was people from the skinhead scene, people from the mod scene. And that was the thing about the early 80s. All these youth tribes, as they call them now, were basically around at the same time. So you could go to a club and there'd be a mod dancing next to a skinhead, dancing next to a soul boy, dancing next to a kid who was into hip hop. And everyone got on. So I was really lucky. So I could basically play Planet Rock. And as it faded out, I played Howlin' at the Moon by Hank Williams. And everyone stayed on the floor and danced to it because there was a whole rockabilly contingent in there as well. So, and then you could play The Bottle, which was a good jiving tune. So all these 50s kids would jive to The Bottle by Gil Scott-Heron. And once you played that, you could then mix into Jim Dandy by Laverne Baker and all that 50s R&B stuff. So yeah, it was great. I was really spoiled. I was really spoiled because the crowd was so great. You could play almost anything and they would go with it. So we were going through funk, we'd go through like, The Clash, obviously. You know, even Anarchy in the UK now and again, if we were going really for it. But it was great. And then all the time, there was all that great stuff like the Peach Boys, Don't Make Me Wait, you know, and, I say Planet Rock and all that really great stuff like, Funky 4+1, that's the joint, all that stuff. And it was just so great for dancing to it. It just felt really good to see people from all these different tribes all dancing to this music together, you know. It was just really cool.
Yes, it's incredible.
Yep.
And, obviously record digging and sniffing out your crop is a huge part of being a DJ, especially back then. I mean, whereabouts was you buying your crop from?
Oh, blimey. Record fairs were always good in those days. They were always really great record fairs. But City Sounds and Groove were the main place I went to get the American imports. Once you go to the shop a few times, you put up a relationship and they know what kind of stuff you want. So they'll put stuff aside for you, So as long as you go in there regularly, they'll you listen to this stack. And as I said, like every month you go in there and it's like, oh, this new one by Grandmaster Flash, White Lines. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the message and then, Adventures on the Wheels of Steel. I mean, when I heard that, it was like, oh, this is just mind blowing. It literally was like I just played it over and over and over and over again. I had no idea where the samples came from, but it was just... I
think that's the first time when I'd heard someone, properly cutting up all these different records, and I was trying to mimic that as well because I'd get my hand on that 12, and I'd try and cut and make the noise that obviously Flash was doing on the deck, and I'm thinking. This is incredible what he's made here. The Adventures of Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel. What a tune! Yeah,
I mean that was a game changer. It was like, and the way he just dropping things in, and then of course a bit later on there's that Double D and Steinsky lesson.
The lessons, yeah.
Yeah, they were great as well. Just wow, you can drop a little bit of pop, you can drop a bit of this, and as long as you keep mixing it and keep the beat going, it works. So yeah, to me they were great days. I mean, I just love that early 80s thing where you could literally play almost anything and people would go for it, and northern soul, funk, disco, reggae, ska, soca, just all that, the whole gamut of dance stuff, and as long as it had a kind of underground feel, as long as it wasn't too Ashford and Simpson, there were certain things that were kind of too mainstream. If it was on the radio, we probably wouldn't play it, that kind of thing. Again, because when you're young, you're a bit snobby about stuff. You want to have your own scene. You don't want to play stuff that's on top of the pops necessarily.
Because you're right, because with Top of the Pops, I mean, to be honest, let's tell it how it is. I mean, most of it was pretty bad, wasn't it? I mean, every now and again there'd be a nugget and you'd be like, wow, this is wicked. I mean, obviously Buffalo Girls, and there was quite a few brilliant tunes on Top of the Pops, but 90% of it You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't
And also,
that great.
we used to, well, I think you probably feel the same way. It's like, you'd have a tune that was great and you play it until it had turned up on top of the pops and think, okay, now it's time to stop playing it. You know, it's too well known because it's on top of the pops. So I'm not going to play that.
It's not underground anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was really lucky because, as I say, the 70s kind of primed me for everything that came afterwards. So I was lucky that I had the rockabilly stuff, I had the old funk stuff, and you know, so I could, when they were doing samples on hip hop stuff, I was like, oh yeah, that's Low Rider, or that's so I could relate to the stuff I was buying in the 70s, you know. So
the breaks. That's
the
right.
breaks. That that was incredible. I mean, some of the, oh god, I'm trying to think of the one. I'm just blanking now. But I also love the simplicity as well as some of the early rap stuff, because it reminded me of like when I was a kid, I used to like reggae. Like some of my friends who were into the Led Zepp, you know, the 20-minute guitar solos, going, oh, it's so simple. I said, yeah, but that's the great thing about music. Sometimes it just has to be simple for dancing. You know, it's not simple. It's a basic rhythm, and sometimes that's all you need to have a good night. You know, just this rhythm going. And I felt the same way. I heard some of the hip hop stuff like Jimmy Spicer, like Dollar Bill, and I, you know, just over and over again, Dollar Bill, y'all, Dollar Bill, y'all. He says, yeah, but it becomes hypnotic after a while, you know, and it's
it does.
I think a lot of people don't get that there's something about dance music, it should be hypnotic. In a way, you just kind of lose yourself, and it's just, you know, just go with it.
I mean, I think that's you know how I got more into the funk and the rare groove type stuff is because, you know, the hip hop producers were sampling the funk breaks or the other style of breaks.
Yeah.
And that's what was, you know, especially things like the super disco breaks and all them albums that come out. That was really kind of changing the game up, you know, really getting a lot of us into that kind of funk sound.
Yeah, exactly. And it was great because I was discovering loads of funk I didn't even know about. I thought I knew a lot, you know, from 75, 77. But getting those break albums, like, wow, I never heard this. Like, you know, sampling like, I don't know, like theme tunes from certain things, you know, and the Monkeys, like Mary Mary, that break from Mary Mary.
Mary Mary, why you bugging?
Yeah, and it's just like,
it's true.
And it's like, wow, that's a great song. So I started playing that down the mud now and again. But I mean, once the vocals come in, people kind of lost interest. But just having that drum break going, it's just like, you know, that was a great thing about those super disco breaks. That was an education to get those, you know.
Yeah, they was wicked vinyls. And Jay, you know, what other DJs were you rating, you know, back then? I mean, who was kind of, you know, who can you remember on the circuit? Obviously you can't mention everybody, but was there a few key DJs out there that you was kind of your ears were pricking up to and you're thinking, yeah, they're playing a great set?
Yeah, this thing. I mean, obviously my main influence when I was a kid was like Chris Hill, and there was Chris Brown and those guys, you know, all those guys from the Lazy Lady and the Gold Mine. They were a big influence. But I'm just trying to think, Steve Lewis from the Beat Route was probably a guy I really rated, because I used to go to the Beat Route almost every week, and he'd play stuff like, he'd play some really great jazz tunes and he'd mix it up with like, you know, some like funkadelic and stuff like that. And then he'd play some of the new stuff as well. And he was doing that, and I think he was partly my inspiration for what I did at the Dirt Box. It's like, well, you can play anything you want. You know, Steve does it, so I'm going to do it. And Rob Milton's a great DJ that I did the Dirt Box with. He introduced me to loads of disco stuff I'd missed out on, you know, and Northern Soul. Rob was really great on Northern Soul. But who else? God, Mark Moore, obviously I worked with at the Wag Club. It was great. I mean, Mark would play this kind of off the wall stuff sometimes, but it would work like he played Zorba the Greek, you know, that theme tune from the film. But it's a great dance song, and everyone it builds up and builds up, and everyone's going crazy at the end of it. And he also introduced me some really great high energy stuff. And you know, but that's the great thing about DJing, you learn from everyone, you know, as long as you're not too opinionated about yourself, which I have been at times, but as long as you kind of go to clubs with an open mind, you know, like the first time I heard Pump Me Up by Trouble Fund was at a Wag Club, and I can't remember the DJ was playing it, and I think it was 82 or something. I'd never heard it before. It's like, wow, this is incredible. This is like, you know, I suddenly realized all my life I've been waiting to hear Go-Go, because it was just something about those drum rolls. It was just like, wow, it's just like, maybe a long time ago I was like living somewhere where I must have heard it, but it was just like, wow, this is amazing, that rhythm. And then Go-Go had me fixated for about 4 years. I just loved it.
I'm gonna talk to you about the Go-Go. Yeah, definitely. I want to definitely talk to you about that. But yeah, that Go-Go music was incredible, wasn't it? And it had its own kind of style going as well.
Oh yeah. So that was great. But yeah, other DJ. I mean, then I started seeing, you know, well, obviously Bam Barter and Jazzy J, they came down to the Mud Club, I think the second or third week it was going, and their record company rep brought them down, and I was just DJing, and I don't think most people knew who Bambaataa was at that time. And luckily I had Planet Rock with me and he signed it, which still got Zulu Nation and Bambaataa. And then was it he and Jazzy J? Would that have been Jazzy J who was with him? I can't remember, but I know it was Bambaataa and someone else. And they just basically played this 45-minute set. And I'm just like, oh my God, I might as well give up now, because this is just like what they would do. And the sad thing was only about 10 people in the club knew they were there, because again, we didn't have any mics. So 10 people had gathered around a DJ box watching every move, and everyone else is just dancing because they're playing such a great set.
Well,
and it's like, yeah.
I was going to say to you, you know, obviously you was resident at the Mud Club, and the Mud Club. I mean, what a wicked club, you know, that was. And you know, yeah. I mean, you had Philip's salon on the door. And when it was obviously Philip's club, I mean, Philip always looked amazing, you know, like he always had a new outfit, and he was like, you know, I remember one time, and he was like, he was like wearing like bin bags all over, and he looked absolutely brilliant, you know, he really did.
Right.
But the thing is, what we got to say about what made the Mud Club so special?
I think it was the mixture of people again. It was like, because of Philip, you know, was like, you know, a big icon on the gay scene. There was a whole, you know, gay contingent there. So it was very flamboyant. Everyone dressed up, and Philip on the door made sure that everyone dressed up. So you had to look interesting or really good to get in. You know, one time Trouble Funk turned up because I was playing basically almost all their albums at the time, all their singles. And some guy comes on and goes, Jay, you got to come up to the door. Philip won't let in Trouble Funk. They're here with their manager. So I had to run up to them. I had to get on my knees and beg him to let them in. I said, okay, you know, please let them in. He goes, well, they don't look good. I said, Phil, they're playing the music. They made the music I'm playing tonight. So finally he let them in. But in a way it was good because he kept a lot of people out who maybe shouldn't have been in there. But it was a great mix. There was, you know, we had people like Magic and, Flash and all those guys like Bboy, early B-boys who were in there, break dancing and stuff. And I think Philip set the tone for it when the opening night in my club, he had Malcolm McLaren doing a Buffalo Girl, and they had a square dancing thing. So they actually did a square dance, and this had this guy calling out like, Buffalo Girls go around the outside. So everyone was doing this dance, you know. And then after that, they basically said, just play hip hop. So then I was just playing hip hop, and Malcolm came up and he was doing a bit of scratching really badly. But the fact that Philip was kind of in tune with what was going on in the fashion world, and so it was just that mixture of like really fashionable people who are really into music, and the gay scene, and you know the budgeting, you know, the start of the b-boy scene. And it was just great. It was just this whole mixture. So you can see, you know, people dressed up, and other guys like breakdancing. You know, like this guy Barnesy, I know, came down one night and start naked and starts breakdancing on his back. But it was just that kind of thing, and it moved about 3 or 4 times. But every time it moved, it just got bigger and bigger and better and better, I think, you know.
And Jay had so much energy. I mean, the Mud Club. I mean, you know, as you said, like the music and the fashion went hand in hand. And you'd have like, you know, a little bit later, around kind of 80, 86, 87, you'd have all like the B-boys mixing in with all like, you know, the clubbers, and you know, everyone was like, you know, united under one roof, dancing to this amazing music.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. And it was just like, you know, it was really multiracial, multicultural, I guess. And I think it was just, again, we were really lucky because there was so much great music coming out. You know, we were lucky to have, you know, early house music coming out, like 85, you know, some of the early house stuff. And at the same time, there was, you know, with the whole Red Groove scene, people rediscovering funk, you know, and, you know, rediscovering old stuff, like, you know, playing Twist and Shout at Beatles at the Wag Club, and people just going crazy to it because they hadn't, you know, they were too young to remember it first time round. And it's a great song. You know, Twist and Shout is a really great R&B song. I know it's 4 white guys from Liverpool, but I mean, I love the Isley Brothers version, but the Beatles version has just got so much energy, and it's just like, you know, you hear that song even today. I mean, I was playing it just a couple of years ago at this place in LA. There's about 1,000 people in there, most of them like in their early 20s. And they just went crazy to it. You know, it's just something about that R&B, 60s R&B. So, again, the Mud Club was really good. You could play, you know, swing, R&B, and hip hop. As it went on, it got more and more hip hop. People kind of, because there was so much stuff coming out, you had to play more of it because every week you go and you buy 15 records that were great, and you think, I've got to play these at night. So it went from being maybe 50% hip hop R&B to I guess 80, 90% by the end. And And then Philip wanted more house music. So we started playing house, we started playing acid house. But I think by then people had moved on. The whole Wag Club thing was kind of, everyone was kind of doing it by then.
Wasn't you playing quite a bit of like Chicago house as well? Like in the...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were playing, I think by pure luck, I think Mark and I were a couple of the first DJs in London to play house because Philip had gone to the New Music Seminar in '85 and he met the guys from Trax and DJ International. And they gave him a whole box full of records. And, I'd had a couple of house things, but at the time we called it Garage because it's what they were playing at Paradise Garage in New York. And I didn't realize it was called house until I guess end of '85. But if Philip comes back in the middle of the summer, '85, and he's got this whole box of stuff and he wouldn't let us take it home with us. And typical Philip. So he'd bring it down every week and we were allowed to play it. And, but that was great, just hearing that. Again, I love the simplicity of early house. I like dum dum and precision beats, and it's just that dum, dum, just a drum machine. And it's just, again, I'm a simple man, so sometimes I just like simple beats, And it was great for mixing with because a lot of it was that kind of BPM of between fast hip hop and before, sort of like the more, I guess, 120 beat per minute disco stuff. So you could kind of use that to go from hip hop, using the sort of the new housey stuff into disco, So that was kind of useful, which, that's not a good reason for playing music, but it's useful, but it helped,
It's like pivotal times. I mean, the scene was really kind of moving quick.
Oh, yeah. That was the thing. Rare Groove came out of nowhere. It was to see everyone dressing up like, Superfly style. That was great. Yeah. And then, but almost as soon as that happened, you got people coming in wearing bandanas and the acid T-shirts. And it's funny now, looking back, I look at all these people talking about 88, and you think there was nothing else going on in 88 other than, house music. But you think there was tunes like It Takes Two by Rob Bass and which were one of the biggest hip hop tunes of the 80s, one of the most played at least. And that was 88. And then you had, De La Soul made their appearance in 88. There was so much stuff going on in 88 that wasn't just house music. And it's a shame that a lot of people looking back now think, 88 was just house and nothing else. But there was, so I dug this up. Soul Underground, like it's She Rockers.
Wow.
And I'm looking at the chart, and it's like Roxanne Shante, Biz Marquis, Big Daddy Kane, MC Shan at the Academy. And it was like, Just Ice. And it's just all these great hip hop bands were, still going strong, still producing great music. But it seems a lot of it's been forgotten because house just kind of swept everything to one side a little bit,
Yeah, I was going to concerts like, Public Enemy, 1987, and, the Raising Hell tour with Run DMC, LL Cool J.
Oh, yeah.
Houdini, and also the Electric Ballroom. I remember seeing Run DMC at the Electric Ballroom in 1985. What a place that was as well, Electric Ballroom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was. I think I first DJed there in 80, maybe 86 or 85. But, I did the Fridge for a while. No, I did... Yes, it was the Warehouse. They basically had a place that is little, literally a warehouse, and it was filled with like half-built furniture, sawdust everywhere in Kentish Town. And they did that for a few weeks, and it got busted by the police. And then they went quiet for a bit, and then they came back at the Warehouse Electric Ballroom. And I remember the first time I walked in there, it was packed because I'd already done a set somewhere else, and I walked in late, and it was filled. And then the DJ box was on stage. And up till then, I've been used to the DJ box kind of hidden away a little bit. Even in the Mud Club, it's just raised up slightly. But here I am on a stage, and I'm just being so nervous. I was like, my hands were doing this, trying to put the record on because like everyone's looking at me. And but that was a great venue, the Ballroom. It was just like, not the cleanest of venues, but the vibe in there could be amazing,
Oh,
but London was spoiled that way. We were so lucky. I think round from 84 maybe to 90, I think every night of the week you could go and hear music you like. You could go to a salsa night, you could go to a acid jazz night, you could go to literally everything, a rockabilly night or Gaz's Rockin' Blues, R&B. And I know other things were going on in the rest of England. I don't want to be too London centric, but just because of the size of the place, it was really, you were really lucky to be there because every night there was something you could go to if you wanted to,
It's literally, as you said, Jay, like literally every single night of the week, there was something going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there was, so many great DJs, like Cold Cut Crew, Nicky Holloway and all those guys. God, there was a guy who played Afrobeat. I can't remember his name now. He put out a bunch of great albums, but you could go and hear African stuff. You could go and hear stuff from like Venezuela. It was amazing. It probably still is, but I've been away for like 16 years now, so.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's kind of lost the plot a bit. I think a lot of the, the good clubs have kind of shut down. There's not many really sort of great clubs left. It's more kind of bars.
Oh, okay, right. I went back. Last time I was back in London was 3 years ago. 3 years ago before COVID, and a couple of friends and I, we'd walk around trying to find all the venues that we used to DJ at, and all of them been demolished. They'd all gone. There was like luxury apartments, even Madame Jojo's, which was a place I really enjoyed playing when I used to come back to London with Snowboy and Keb Daj, and that is gone. And I thought that was going to be there forever, but I guess that's what they call progress, I guess.
Well, Soho's really changed. I mean, back in the day, Soho was full of energy, was full of soul. I mean, don't get me wrong, it could have been a little bit kind of, dodgy and gritty as well. Obviously, the red light districts and all that, but it was full of flavour, full of soul. Now you go there, it's like going down a normal high street, and there's not really much of a kind of, there's a little bit of a vibe about it, but it's not like what it was back in the 70s and the 80s. Yeah,
I think you need that little bit of grit, a little bit of, bit of sleazy almost. For a place to be, I don't know, it just attracts it attracts arty people, and because of its reputation, the prices aren't too high. You could rent a club down there fairly easy. But as you say, when I went back in, was it 2018? I couldn't believe Soho had changed. It was like so gentrified, it was like all these, aromatherapy shops, and it was just all these little coffee bars and wine bars, and it was like, the energy's gone. You could feel that kind of underground energy had just seeped away a little bit.
Sure, the music scene and all that is still doing really well. I mean, I'm sure there's still loads of amazing music coming out of London and the UK. Incredible music.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I've really got into lately just this kind of lo-fi kind of stuff that where people are sort of, it's like hip hop but without lyrics, and it's just kind of they sample this kind of weird exotica stuff. There's this group called Harmonic 33, I think. I think they're French, but there's a whole bunch of these bands. There's probably a name for it, but it's really kind of atmospheric, and it's got really great beats. It really sounds like this is going to be a great hip hop tune. But instead of vocals, it goes into this kind of swirling, and they sample sort of really weird stuff. And there's I can't even pronounce it, MPA or MAPE. They just do this really great sort of reggae hip hop stuff, but it's all really atmospheric, and it's just little vocal samples here and again, so I like that. I go to bars that play that stuff, and that kind of keeps me in touch a little bit of what's going on. But when I'm DJing, they basically want 60s R&B, they want 70s funk, that kind of stuff. And I love playing it because it makes me feel young again, because there's all these kids that are like 19, 20 going crazy to it, and it's like, wow, I've got a second chance to DJ, so that's good. But it's not really cutting edge, but I mean, for them, a lot of stuff they're hearing, is I'm really digging deep on the R&B stuff now. I mean, working with Snowboy helped a lot because the stuff he was playing, and then Keb Daj from his deep funk stuff. So every time I come back to London, I'm inspired, and I come back here and I kind of like try and dig deep for the crowds out here. But
big shout out to Snowboy. I mean, Snowboy, wicked DJ. I've done an interview with Snowboy. I mean, what a great guy.
Oh, he really is. He's so generous with his time, with his music and everything. And every time I came back, I used to work with him at JoJo's, and then when he started working at what's it called, South London Soul Train.
Yeah, the Bushy Buildings. Yeah, Peckham.
Oh, that was doing that. That was like doing the Mud Club again. It was just packed with young kids, all these young students.
Yeah. Getting down to funk, yes.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And then going up into Snowboy's, he's got his own room, the funk room, and then DJing in there. It was like, oh man, it was special. I was on high for about a week after that. It was just such a buzz.
And do you know what, Jay? That's the good thing with music, is that we can still hear tunes now that we've never heard, and it'll still give us goosebumps on our arms. It'd be like, where did this tune come from? For DJs like yourself, Snowboy, and all the other incredible DJs we have as well, to keep the flame going and basically schooling the younger generation, they love it, and it keeps the music, it keeps everything going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that was part of the reason that everything took off in the 80s, was because for some reason all those tribes of the 70s kind of met in the beginning of the 80s, and because there was skinheads and there was nouveau mods and there was, I don't know, rockabillys and everything else, all the record companies started going for their back catalogues. So Kent released all those Northern Soul LPs, and there was a whole bunch of stuff re-released, and I think Motown released all their stuff, and that was a big thing in the early 80s, just to reissue. So you could discover a whole world of old music at the same time. All this new music was coming out, and it was just like, so everywhere you went, the music was great because it was either old great music or it was great new music. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's probably the same today, but you know, it just seemed like a real peak of that in the 80s. Just all those albums being re-released. It was just like
it was a magical time, you know, and it was a very exciting time. The way everything was kind of developing. You think about it, Jay. I mean, you know, all this kind of incredible music, underground music, and you know, the clubbing scene, it really kind of brought people together and like unite, you know, people from all different religions, backgrounds, you know, races. It was unifying everybody under one roof. It was like one nation under one pounding beautiful groove, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was the great thing about. I mean, to me, that's the great level about music. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as you're on that dance floor, or even propping up the bar, nodding your head. It doesn't matter. Part of this thing you are, and the music's washing over you, and you're all into it, and everyone knows you're into it because you're in there. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's I don't know. It's something about music. It's a healing thing as well. You know, it's like, as you say, it's. Yeah, I mean, I think probably mankind's greatest achievement to me in a way is music. You know, it's just.
It really is a saviour. You know, like when I'm driving around London in my cab, you know, I've got all different styles of music going on, and you know, it's a release.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny actually. Funny we talk about this. It's like we were watching some program last night. There's this big movement over here called Nomad, where people get into a camper van and they sell all their possessions. They just live in this camper van. They drive all over America and they put videos up on YouTube or whatever, and they have all these subscribers, and it looks fun. I mean, if I was younger, I probably would want to do it for a few months, but some have been doing it for years. But there was this one girl or guy, I can't remember which, was saying it, and they were going, oh, you know, it's just certain emotions you can never capture in music. And I thought, you know, music's only good for uplifting you. And I thought, the number of times I've broken up with a girlfriend and gone home and played all my sort of like what becomes of the broken hearted. Music is great for whatever mood you're in. Music will indulge you. And that's a great thing, whether you just suffered a broken heart or whether you're going out for the night and you want to dress up and you're looking sharp and you've got the right tune on and get like, yes, I want to get some tonight. That kind of thing, you know, the music will be there for you, whatever mood you're in, which I think is amazing, you know.
It's there within our heart. And how did it kind of make you feel, you know, when you're seeing like this crowd, like everyone's going off to the tunes you're playing? It must be such a buzz.
It really is. It's funny because I told you before, I was in this band we called the L Trains. We were doing rockabilly, and we kind of said we were funkabilly because now and again we go into these sort of weird grooves where we sort of do a funk groove, and it was fun and it was good for the ego. But you never really got people dancing. But when you're in a club, and the first time I got a whole club going crazy, like screaming and that kind of thing, and waving their hands in the air. It's like such a rush, and I thought that must be what it's like to be a performer in front of like, you know, 10,000 screaming fans. And yeah, it is. It's amazing. It's just like a real adrenaline rush. It's just. But
it must be a little bit. It must be a little bit nerve-wracking as well, because you know, even though everyone's, you know, going off and not having it on the dance floor, you could kill it with one tune as well.
Oh, I've done that many times. And that's what, to me, that's what always kept my feet on the ground. I hope I never got too arrogant, is because I remember one time, especially Malcolm X, just kind of No Sell Out, that tune on Tommy Boy. And I thought it was a great tune. And I got it on promo and played it at the Mud Club. And whatever I played before, everyone was going crazy. And I put Malcolm X on and the whole floor just cleared. And it's like, oh shit. But you have to like grit your teeth. And I let it play through to the end. I didn't cut it off and then play someone else getting back on the floor. But within about 3 weeks, they were going for it. But that does happen a lot with DJing. I mean, you live on your nerves as a DJ. I mean, I've known DJs that used to take coke every night just to get through the night because they were so nervous, even if it was a good night. And eventually they had to DJ to make enough money to get the coke, which is kind of a sad situation to be in. But luckily I never had to do that. But it is kind of nerve-wracking. You get in there and you think, are they going to dance? Are they going to dance? And it's like, and they start dancing. You think, are they dancing soon enough? I want to get them dancing more. And it's such a relief. I think that's part of the exhilaration. It's kind of this relief. It's like, okay, now the night's flowing. Now everyone's going for it, and I can do what I want now. Because when you get the crowd to a certain level, I mean, you can basically, okay, I can really take risks now. I can drop this, I can drop that, and you kind of push yourself a little bit. And yeah, no, you're right. It is. There's not I don't know. I think that's why so many people DJ now, because it is such a buzz. It's just so great. It's just to make people happy just from dancing.
But the thing is, though, Jay, you know, when you was like on the wheels of steel, you know, this is going back to where, you know, you really had to learn your craft. We're talking about, you know, the pitch control, the vinyl, you know, the vinyl could have a little scratch on it and it's suddenly like, you know, the needle jumps. So you got to learn like different situations. Like nowadays, you know, you're just putting it into a computer, pressing sync, and off you go.
And off
you know,
you go,
a lot of these records, Jay, that you were playing, probably all of them actually, were probably all live, and you can't sequence that stuff. The BPMs could have been slightly out in time. You know, you got a live band performing or someone on bongos, whatever.
Exactly.
You can't sequence that stuff.
Yeah, to me, I had to, in the early days, I had to mix by mood. It was like, this song feels like it should go with this song. Whether it was a 50s R&B song going into like, you know, Me and Baby Brother War. It's like, yeah, the feel of the beat is there. It's like these two go, and it's just in your head, you kind of know. And I think a good DJ knows that you think, okay, this song from the 50s will go with this song from the 70s, which will then lead into this song from the 80s. And it didn't have to be. Yeah, I always was slightly suspicious of people who had all the BPMs. I mean, I did it for a bit, but when you just DJ for BPMs, it's like, okay, are you playing the best tune you could play, or are you just playing this tune because the BPM goes with the tune before it? Yeah, I don't know. I guess anything that as long as people are playing music, it's a good thing. But I've done a couple of gigs recently where I've turned up with my vinyl, and I've been sweating away for like a couple of hours, and people have asked. And then the guy comes on, they've got the CD players there as well, and he just plugs in his 2 memory sticks. And I'm walking in with these big boxes of records, like my shoulder's killing me. This guy just walks in wearing a jacket, takes 2 memory sticks out of his jacket, plugs them in, and that's it. And then he's just standing there going like that all night. So, okay. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say it's cheating because it's music. You know, they're playing music. That's what counts in the end. But I'm old school, you know.
Did you ever like hide the title of the record so you wouldn't let other people know what you was playing? Because this is days before the internet. You didn't have things like the Shazam and all that. So, you know, you couldn't like find out what tune was playing. So you never used to hide the title of the tune? No,
I never did that. I guess because I had a couple, I guess 75, 76, I went to a couple of Northern Soul things like Bisley and in Camberley. And everything was covered up. Everything was white label. They covered everything up. Or if they put a label on it, it was a really stupid title. Obviously, it wasn't the song. And I could never understand it. To me, it was like, you want to share the music. You know, the guys who made the music, especially the old stuff, they didn't get paid at the time. You know, they owe, you know, it's great if people go out and buy it. So then hopefully they might get some royalties down the line. So I kind of got it why people covered up, you know, especially in a really competitive scene like the Northern Soul scene, you know, where like, you know, if you have one great song, that could last you for like 4 months in terms of popularity. People go to see just for that one song. So you want to keep it secret. But to me, it was like, I'd rather they knew about the music that someone else can go out and buy it. And that's why I started writing for The Face in a way. That I did these record reviews in The Face and stuff. It's like, I just wanted to share the music, you know, and just, you know, I kind of wished there'd been something like that for me back in the 70s. And Blues and Soul was good, but, you know, I just, I'm going into a thing here, but I just think it's important that people share music. I get why they did that in those days, but I think now it's important. And that's one thing I find sad now when you go to a club and they're not playing vinyl. Is you don't know what it is. It's just, it could be a mix they've done at home, and I'm going to be a really old fart now. I used to love seeing that, and you know, that, and then that, and then that. You know what I mean? And just seeing those. And when you're DJing, you can see, okay, that's the profile record, and that's going to be this, or this is this record, like this is Enjoy. And you knew what the tunes were, so you just flick through them, pull them out, get them on. And I really miss that, you know, when you have to DJ on CD or if you have to DJ with a laptop.
And Jay, you know, the digging, going into the record shop, sniffing out your crop, you know, going through the racks and trying to find, you know, the next tune that you want to, like, you know, get everyone dancing to, you know. You kind of lose that within digital files, don't you? You know.
That's it. And sometimes, you know, there was one particular tune, there's a Northern Soul tune called Going to a Happening by Tommy Neal, which I love because it's really raw, and you can tell it must be the 10th or 15th take the guy's done of it, because his voice is breaking up all over the place, but he's almost screaming the song by then. You could just tell he was going to collapse after it ended, because his voice is really going. But I just love the energy in it. And I was looking for it everywhere for about a year in England. And I was DJing in Canada, in Toronto. And so I said, there's this really great record shop. We've got to go there, English guy. and I'm flicking through the Northern Soul stuff, and I asked him because I don't know if I've got it, and there it was going to a happening. It was like, I was like, oh my God. And it felt so great. It was worth all the broken fingernails and the sort of dirt on your fingers flicking through, you know. And then when I used to come over here in the 90s and I was buying more sort of jazz stuff, you go to these swap meets. There was one in Pasadena, and a Pasadena Civic College swap meet. And they used to have a football pitch, maybe 2 or 3 football pitches size, of nothing but vinyl.
Wow.
And it was just, there was so much stuff. And I just wish I'd had unlimited funds, and I wish I'd had a transport plane to fly them all back to London. Because I'd be going through it, and there's this Brazilian stuff. I thought, I don't even know this. Is it great? And there's this Mexican funk stuff. I thought, is this good? And I was buying all the stuff I wanted. And eventually I just couldn't carry any more stuff. But there's just so much of it. Everyone was dumping their vinyl, you know, at the end of the 80s, everyone was going to the CD. And it was just, I just couldn't believe how much stuff there was. And unfortunately now,
and the thing
it's all gone. It's all gone.
And the thing is, Jay, it's not like, you know, you can look things up now on the internet, or you can carry like one of these record players around with you and like listen to it. There was none of that, was there? There was none of that.
No, none of that. Yeah, I mean, Kev was the first guy who did that. Kev used to do that. He'd take a little record player around to record fairs so he could hear what he was doing. But yeah, it was. You took a real risk, because even if sometimes the vinyl looked perfect, but there'd be a skip in it in the middle, and there was one tune called "Smoking Your Troubles Away." It's like I think a Washington funk tune. I can't remember it's by, but it's called "Smoking Your Troubles Away." And it's about marijuana. And every copy I've had 6 copies, has this skip just before the end, and it just really bugs me. Like, one day I'll find a good copy, but you know, there's something great. You just get into the zone. It's almost like dancing when you're looking for records. It doesn't matter whether it's really hot or really cold. You're just looking through them. And my wife can't understand it. She says, you know, don't you get? I can literally spend all day going through records, digging, you know, and it's just like digging, and when you just find out one thing, it makes it all worthwhile. I don't know.
Yeah, you find that one nugget. Yeah, you're like, wow, I found it. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and even if you can't tell anyone else, inside you're just like, yes. I don't know.
But Jay, going back, you know, going to the, I mean, obviously you was resident DJ at the Wag Club as well. And for me, like, the Wag Club was one of the best clubs in London back in the, you know, I was going there like mid 80s.
Yeah.
You know, can you tell me about the Wag Club? What made the Wag Club so special as well? Was it like, obviously the location, it was the music, it was the fashion, it was everything.
It was everything, and I think it was, you know, everyone who worked there was really cool. Like, you know, like Morris on the door, and even the doorman, once you got to know them, were really cool guys, really friendly. And you know, Chris Sullivan and Ollie O'Donnell were running it, were great. The manager Alan was great. Everyone was really friendly. The barman was friendly. But I think it had that central tradition, because you knew it was from the whiskey. It was the Whiskey a Go-Go, so it was this great mod club back in the 60s, and it was still going, and it was in the heart of the West End. You know, you couldn't get more in the middle of the West End. You know, just off Piccadilly Circus. And again, that attracted a really great crowd. You know, you could go there on a Monday night, it was jazz. Go on a Tuesday, and it was this. And it was just, there was always something new there, you know. And it just felt like a nightclub, because there was that window at the back, you look over Gerrard Street. And to me, it was like that, when I was a kid, there was always a thing about swinging London. You know, I always just imagined the bright lights. Well, kind of like with your backdrop, man. It was just like, to me, that's London, the bright lights and everything. And so you'd be in a Wag Club, and you look out over the street, and you can see Gerrard Street with all the neon on. I thought, yeah, this is what a club is supposed to be like. This is what, you know, that whole 50s, 60s idea of a nightclub, you know, that you could go out there, to be some femme fatale waiting for you in a Jag or something. But you know what I mean? It was just that romantic thing about it. But it was just a great venue. I mean, the sound system wasn't perfect, but it was just a great venue.
I'll tell you what was special about the Wag as well, was the dance floor. The floor. It had that, like, quite slippery, I'm thinking it was like a wooden floor or something, but the floor, like, you could do like you know, you used to get all the jazz dancers in there, the funk dancers, the floor made right. that. Yeah. The floor,
and it had a give to it as well. I remember one
night,
Gino Washington was playing in there, and I knew he was a big thing in the 60s. I didn't realize he had such a big fan following. And I was DJing, and at one point I thought the floor was going to go, because the whole thing was just going up and down like this.
Wow.
It had a great bounce. I think that added to the dancing. It had this give to it. It was perfect. Yeah.
It really did. You know, it really did, and it really did, Jay. And also, you know, you used to get quite a lot of celebrities in there. I remember going in there, and like Mickey Rourke was in there, and we went up to him and bought him a drink. And you get loads of celebrities in there as well, wouldn't you? Like, you know, it was.
There was a resident celebrity from the 40s, Slim Gaillard, who was did this he did this jazz bebop stuff with oh my God, I've forgotten the name. It was a really big bebop singer of the 30s and 40s, Cab Calloway. This Slim Gaylord had worked with Cab Calloway, and he did a couple of albums himself, and he used to hang out in a Wag Club almost every night. You go in there and Slim Gaylord, and you think, well, there's a piece of history there. I mean, to me, he was like this legend, you know, and there he is. It's almost like going to somewhere. Humphrey Bogart was in there. It was almost like that. It was like, yes, this is. I've seen this guy in films from the 40s, and here he is in the Wag Club. You know what I mean? It was so cool. It was
the club. I mean, I read as well. Apparently, there was like the Roxy Road show in November. I think it was November 1982, where Africa Bambaataa, Jazzy J, Fab Five Freddy, the Rocksteady Crew, and Futura 2000 like come down to the Wag as well. That's what I read. So
yeah, I was there that night. Yeah, it was great.
Wow.
It was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, just in awe of all these people. And again, a lot of people didn't even know who they were. People were like, who are all these people in here tonight? But it was just like, when you knew a little bit, it's like, oh my God, I don't know how they got that in there, but it was perfect. But you're right, because it got celebrities, and therefore the record company guys would go down there. And so therefore, if anyone was in town, they would bring them down to the Wag Club. So it was great. It was great for people spotting and, you know, great for music, obviously. You know, it was
a special place, the Wag. And, you know, I was gutted when it shut.
I know, yeah. It's just, it was to me, it was end of it. It was almost like the whole of Soho was slowly going bit by bit. You know, it's all being chipped away. But I had one of my worst nights ever at the Wag Club, actually, where one of the turntables packed up and only had one turntable, and that really concentrates the mind. When a record ends and you get the next one on, you have to take that one off, put the next one on, and of course, the crowd were really winding me up. They all start booing and jeering in between the records. And it's like, so I actually announced, look, I'm really sorry, the record player's broken down. Everyone started jeering again. But that was a long night. Just the whole night of just like, I think after the first half hour, the turntable went. They couldn't fix it. So I just had one turntable for the rest of the night. And that was hard.
Where was you getting your clothes from? Was you going like hyper in Kensington Market?
Well, I was lucky because I had Rocket Chart in Ken Market. So, you know, I did that 50s look for a long time, which was, I remember I used to go into Daddy Cool when I was a punk and I had a sort of spiky white hair, and I got to know the guy behind the counter, really friendly guy, and it was always weird. A lot of punks went and bought reggae in those days. And then I remember going through this kind of new romantic bit, and I grew my hair out a bit, and I thought, you know what, that rockabilly scene, I like the rockabilly scene because to me, rockabilly was like punk. It was this, you know, to be a rockabilly in the 50s was taking a risk, you know, to wear pink peg trousers. So to me, it was like the first punk rock, you know. So it was like they were really rebelling against everything, you know, this really extreme music, you know, but people hated it at the time, and it became cool. Anyway, so I went and got this flat top done and like sort of greased up and everything. And I walked into Daddy Cool and he goes, "What the F have you done to yourself now?" But it was funny. It was just, but at least so people got to know me because here's a rockabilly kid that goes and buys reggae, you know. So, but yeah, there was so many shops you could buy clothes and lots of secondhand places. You know, you get stuff secondhand, like, you know, Oxfam shops, but there was
and jumble sales as well. Jumble sales,
you get some good stuff. Yeah. But yeah, when in the 70s, it was great because you had Sex, which became Seditionaries. You had Johnson's in Ken Market, and there was lots of things in Kensington Market were selling old stuff. Like there was a mod shop there was a psychedelic shop, and there was a great gear market in the Kings Road. Kings Road had loads of stuff, but the Kings Road's like Soho now. It's all been homogenized, you know. It's all Benettons and Gaps and everything. But in the old days, in the 70s, there were loads of different little clothes shops. You know, you could get stuff, and there was always somewhere, like you said, there was always somewhere you could pick something out that was different, you know.
And Jay, can you tell me as well about the importance of the pirate radio station? Because, you know, we're going back to an era where there was no internet. So the only way you could really kind of promote these clubs was either chat down the pub, tell someone, yeah, we're going there tonight, or go on the pirate radio stations, because the pirate radio stations were the stations that were playing the underground music that the other stations weren't playing.
That's it, yeah. I was aware of the underground, I was aware of the pirate radio stations, and the first one I was on was WBLS, which was, oh man, my memory. Derek Bolan, you know, passed away sadly.
Yeah. I'll point to Derek, yeah.
Yeah, he put WBLS together, him and a couple other guys. And that was a great thing. But I think it was because they had a whole bunch of the kind of underground DJs on it. The rumor was that all the other stations basically decided they were going to not let them exist. And so WBLS got raided something like 7 times in the first 2 months it was on air, and they basically just bankrupted them. But I got a taste of it. It was just great to be in this little thing. I think the one was it Wandsworth? I just remember you went up this tower block and the toilet had been blocked for days. It was stank. So you just don't smell toilet. And you just be there and you knew that hopefully thousands of people out there were listening to you. And it was just so great to know. And so you could plug songs and plug venues, like you say. And then when Kiss came on full strength as a pirate, and they asked me to come on Kiss because of what I'd done on WBLS. And that was great. And you Kiss would advertise something only on Kiss, and you'd turn up at some warehouse. There'd be like 2,000 kids outside because they'd heard it on the show, you know. Not my show particularly, but, you know, whether it was Gordon's or whether it was, you know, Trevor Maddox or any of those guys, Paul Anderson. If you plugged it on Kiss, people would be there. And you're right, because the only other way was, we were talking about it, like flyers, which, to be honest, were really boring until about 86. And then they started getting interesting. But for the first few years, it was literally, you just do stuff like this. You just get the electric. I mean, there's a sampling of it. I mean, some of them look like their kids made them up for them. It's like literal letter set and a little drawing.
But as we said earlier, Jay, there was no graphic packages, was there? So the only way to design these flyers were to probably like hand sketch them, or, you know, cut things out and.
Which is, and again, it kind of added to the whole punk feel of that underground scene, because it's like you just do it yourself. So you, in a way, you didn't need to be a graphic designer. You just needed, as you say, a pair of scissors and a piece of glue and a thing, and you just stick it on, and like that's your flyer.
And photocopied it, yeah.
But that evolved to the point where I remember, I think Raw, they did some really great flyers.
Yeah.
And then gradually the game changed as people got more and more good at it, and they started spending more money on the flyers. And so it got to a point where you're actually getting cassettes, you know, people give you a cassette and stuff. And it was just like, wow, that was a whole art form. And there should be a book on that, the flyers, because there was so many great flyers that came out.
Do you know, someone should do a book on flyers, because there were some wicked flyers, you know, going around.
Yeah, I mean, God, I wish I had more. I mean, I love this one for the warehouse, because the guy basically made a story out of it. He found this James Bond thing, or 60s comic book, and he basically stole it, but he changed all the characters. So that's supposed to be me getting kidnapped by MI5 to stop the warehouse, you know. And there's another one where I'm being tortured, and like Jay Strongman didn't like this scratch technique, and these guys are tortured. And then basically I return.
I love it.
Wow. Return Band-Aid, but he's back on the mic. And that was a great little story.
That's all hand drawn.
All hand drawn, yeah. And it's just these great little stories. And then, you know, people started collecting them. And then, but yeah, it was, again, that music is the thing that draws in people who are into fashion, draws people into graphic design. And then, of course, you know, nowadays, some of the flyers are just like works of art, you know, just even in the end of the 80s, some of the flyers were just, as you say, they were beautifully done, just, you know, really gorgeous. And I mean, the one I did I was proud of, because it was still in the days, we got this map of, it was, do you remember Chernobyl happened, 86? And that was that, everyone thought it was this radioactive cloud was coming over. Well, we were doing a club called The Bunker in Deptford, I think it was. And so on the back of it, we put this map of Europe. It was like a weather map with all these little lines on it. And we just put a little radiation symbol, and then it said iodine. And we stuck these iodine tablets to it, so people could take iodine ending radiation. So people did loads of stuff like that. You know, it was a fun time. You know, 86 onwards, I think flyers just became amazing. Yeah.
You know, the 80s really were special, and you know, music was developing so fast. I mean, you was going from like the punk era in the late 70s, early 80s to like you know, the rap, which become hip hop, and then you had like you know, your house, acid house, drum and bass, jungle, trip hop. You know, it was all kind of developing so fast.
Yeah, that's it. And again, it's a great thing about Britain is that I think we're like maybe I've said this already, but we're kind of like this amplifier that music comes in from the States, we absorb it and love it, and then we basically send it out into the world, or we change it slightly, like put our own little twist.
Yeah,
like drum and bass and jungle. It was that twist of like house with reggae with, you know, hip hop, and then you create something out of it, which was jungle, drum and bass, and, you know, trip hop. And I think that's a thing that the British have always been good at. You know, I'm sure they still are. I'm a little bit out of it musically now. I'm kind of going back to the old stuff I used to like, you know, back in the 70s. But I just feel really lucky that I was around in the 80s, and I was in a place where I could enjoy all this. And then, you know, obviously I got to see the world. It was like that thing, you know, join the army and see the world. It was like become a DJ and see the world. And, you know, I never dreamt that I'd be DJing in Rio or be DJing in Moscow when it was still the Soviet Union. And it was all because it was London. It was a London scene. If I'd been DJing in Spain, then probably no one ever heard of me. But again, lucky, because London was the focal point, I think, for fashion, a lot of things from, you know, mid-'80s onwards. Everyone wanted to see what was happening in London. And if you were based in London, you were really lucky, you know, and because the magazines were there, like the Face and ID. And it's kind of unfair that people were in other places in the country, but, you know, it is what it is, I guess. A capital city is always going to have the most attention to it, you know, and it's a great city, as you know.
It's a brilliant city, yeah. And we've got the best cab drivers, London taxis in the world.
London cab drivers saved my life so many times back in the day, man. It's like, when I moved to Kensington, and there was this route called the Dirty Dozen, and it would get you basically.
I know the Dirty Dozen through Soho. Yeah, I know the Dirty Dozen.
And it would drop me just behind where the Mud Club used to be. And a couple of times I got mini cabs, and they got lost, and it was like taking an hour to get there. And
I can't believe you know the Dirty Dozen. That's mad.
Yeah, because I used to do that almost every Friday night. I get in the cab and go, "Oh, could you do the Dirty Dozen?" He goes, "Well, you've done this before."
Yeah.
But they were great, and then I don't know, just, you know, sometimes come out of a venue in the middle of nowhere, and everyone's gone home. I've got my record box and think, because I didn't drive then. You know, I didn't drive until much later. And it's like, you see this yellow light, and you go, oh, thank God. And it was just like a black cab, and they would always stop. You know, for me, I don't know, it's even if somewhere out in Walthamstow or somewhere out in Wapping, when they were still redeveloping it, you know, just black cab would be there, and it was like, okay, I want to get home now. I'm going to have breakfast at a reasonable time, you know.
Yeah.
But that was a big part of my DJ life, was actually getting into black cabs. But there's some stories there that it's just like, but yeah, I don't know. To me, that's I really miss that. Actually, every time I come back, I'm in Heathrow, I get into a black cab, and I just lean back, and the guy makes a joke, and I think, oh, I'm home. Because of that English humor, and I can talk about things. Like in America, people even don't understand me because of my accent. Or they don't get British humor, and they kind of look at you like, if I make a joke about myself, they kind of look at me like, what's wrong with you? Whereas back in England, they get it straight away, you know, it's that cultural thing of like, you know, and so, yeah, every time I'm in a black cab, I'm like, okay, I'm home.
Well, next time you come to London, I'll take you out in my cab.
Oh,
I won't take you through I won't take you through the Dirty Dozen, because that don't exist, and you can't do it anymore. They've shut it off. They've shut it. You can't get through.
Oh my God. There's so many one-way things now. And just
don't even go there.
I won't even go there. Yeah, it's a whole different subject. But.
And Jay, very quickly, because we're going to be running out of time, we're going to probably have to do a part 2 at some stage, if that's all right. But what is there any like big highlights for you as well?
Oh man, there was an anti-apartheid gig in Clapham Common in '85, I think it was, or '86, and I think there was about 100,000 people there. And I was just DJing in between the acts, so they had loads of different bands on. But to DJ to that many people, and just the vibe was so great. And then I think I played Revolution, Dennis Brown. And just when everyone started cheering that, it's just like, I almost had tears in my eyes. I've got that many people cheering, you know, on a song. And it's like, oh, wow. You know, that just felt really special, to be part of something that was, you know, for a good cause. And then to get that reaction on the first song, it was great. But yeah, you know what, you're spoiled as a DJ, because if you're lucky, at least once a week, you're going to get that thing where everyone goes crazy and you think, oh my God, you feel really like you don't even need drugs sometimes. You're just up there, you know, on the vibe of everyone else. So yeah, that was one particular thing, but there was so many. And I think most DJs must have that, you know, it's, you know, thank God for music, you know.
Yeah, music saved our life. And I'm sure it saved many others as well.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, so I'll never get tired of it. And as you say, I'm still discovering stuff that I wish I'd known about 20 years ago. It's like, wow, why didn't I know this song 20 years ago? But at least I found it now, you know.
But Jay, what can I say? Listen, it's been an absolute honour chatting to you.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, we could go on and on. We've got to definitely have to do a part 2 because I want to touch on that go-go sound and all that sort of stuff. As well.
That'd be great, man. Yeah.
Obviously, that's another subject as well together where we can like go into that. But anybody watching this, please press the subscribe button down there somewhere.
Yeah, do it, people. Subscribe.
Subscribe and get alive. I've interviewed people like Public Enemy, Johnny Rocker, Aswad, Man Parish, Cosmo D. I mean, it's been so many brilliant interviews. But Jay, listen, it's been an absolute honour, my man.
No, I've enjoyed it, man. Thank you. It's just made my year. So it's good talking to you.
No, honestly, a real honour. And you know, when you come back to London, we'll get in touch. And actually, maybe we do a part 2 in the back of the cab.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, but we won't be going through the Dirty Dozen. Yeah.
We can go around all the venues that used to exist and all that.
No, we should do. Yeah, maybe we do the all city walkabout. So maybe we go out with the camera and we talk about like where certain venues used to be, and that would be great. Yeah,
that'd be fun, man. I'd love that.
Do like a little tour. Yeah,
Madam Jojo's, all those places. Yeah.
Madam Jojo's. Yeah.
But
listen,
Steve, that'd be great, man.
Jay, listen, be safe, man, and it's been an honour.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Cheers, buddy. Bye.
Peace from the southeast.